Welcome back, everyone, to another episode as we close out our celebration of Women's History Month. Today, we are speaking with Julia Rock. I've been looking forward to this conversation. If you really think about it, it's about a 3-year in the making here. Julia is a career transition coach for athletes. She's a speaker and a LinkedIn top voice in sports. She has coached corporate professionals to career success for 15 plus years and now helps athletes to translate their existing skills into high paying, in demand careers. Julia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. I've been waiting for this. I've been all day on it. I can't wait to talk.
Well, I'm so appreciative. And folks, we will be speaking about making a career transition. And if you are considering such a thing, this is the episode you want to listen to, because Julia is going to share a lot of great information today. But before we get into that, Julia, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, thank you so much, Enrique. So talking a little bit about me. So as you mentioned, I'm a career transition coach and I own Rock Career Development. And through our organization, we're really focusing on helping folks in career transitions, especially when it comes to athletes after a life of sports. They may not know what's next. And so having this opportunity to help guide them to new careers, a fresh start after sports, knowing that they can still pursue something fulfilling, is just exciting work to do. A little bit about my background. So coaching corporate professionals, I've learned so much about what it takes to get into a variety of industries. And so that's why I was really excited of taking this expertise and helping athletes. And then, the other thing is I'm a corepreneur. So I tell people I maintain full-time work and run my business. So I work in accounting management. And so being able to juggle both, it's an interesting exercise, but I'm just passionate about helping people to achieve their career goals.
And that's amazing. We were talking before the episode went to record that we've known each other for over 3 years. I've been delighted to see and track your journey, back from when you were in the deep South to now you are out of country in a different country and still thriving, still doing what you have just mentioned that you're doing, and still helping people transition into lucrative careers. I was fortunate to do something similar as a career counselor in the Navy for 15 plus years as well. So I know the dynamic behind trying to find something else to do. And many people will find themselves in that predicament. So as we're talking about that actual move, what are your suggestions as to how to structure a career move? Because fear is one thing that will show up.
So the thing about fear is people are afraid because they don't know what to do, right? So you have this idea of, I want to make this next step. And it's like, well, what do I do next? So you get afraid because you have no idea of what to do. So when it comes to structuring a career move, it's about developing a plan. But before you get to that, you want to think about, why do I want to make this move and what do I want to do, right? So when it comes to career transitions, being very intentional and clear on what you want to do next is very, very important. And sometimes that may require upfront therapy, personal evaluation, because for people, whether it's in the military, whether it's in a toxic workplace, whether it's athletes, that sense of loss and feeling of loss of identity and other things can plague your ability and can cloud your judgment as to thinking of what's next. So taking that upfront time to get clear, to get mentally well is important. And then you can determine, well, what do I want to do and why is this important to me? The next thing I would say when it comes to structuring a career move is thinking about what's really important to you from a value perspective. Because when you're going into a new career move, you have to think about what environment works well for me. How much money do I want to make? What kind of people do I want to be around? What work-life balance am I looking for? Because you don't want to move into a career that's going to take you into the same thing you just left, or make you uncomfortable. So you want to make sure that the career move is a fit for you, not that you're a fit for the career, right? So taking that time to structure it around you and understand what your values are. The next step I would say is really around research. So part of why people get afraid is like it's the fear of the unknown as well. What is on the other side? So doing this research to better understand what kind of roles do I want to get into? What are those roles like? What are the companies like? What's the industry like? Taking the time to kind of soak up that knowledge and not just, Googling, talking to real people in the industry doing the job every day, so that you can get some real context around, hey, is this really going to fit for me? Yes or no? And then one of the last things I'll say about the move is positioning your personal brand. What happens is let's say you're transitioning, let's go to the military example, right? If people just know, hey, this is, I was in the military, but you're now looking for a sales role or marketing or something, you have to be able to position a new personal brand that says, hey, this is my military background, but these are the skills I want to transfer into this new industry. This is what makes me a good fit for this new opportunity. So positioning your personal brand around those transitional skills or transferable skills into that new career move is going to be critically important. And then the last thing I'll say is advocate for yourself. When it comes to a career move, you've got to be willing to speak on your own behalf, right? Just, applying online is not going to get you there. You've got to be willing to take interviews, have conversations with people you don't know, ask questions, that may feel like dumb questions, but do all you can to speak up for yourself and get as much information as you need so that you can get that career move that you're looking for.
Wonderful advice as to structuring that. And as you were detailing those, I was like, yes, yes, yes. So important. But you said something early on that's just as equally important. You said the difference between you being a right fit for the job and it being a right fit for you. And that takes two different roads. And so now, caveating or piggybacking off of that comment, what's the difference between a career and just a job?
Yeah, so the way that I like to think about it is, a job is what you do to pay the bills, right? You've got to, the electric bill is due and rent's due on the first, so you got to get it done because you got to pay these bills. But there may not be any true kind of career vision behind that or long-term vision. When I think about a career, it's an actual journey towards your long-term professional goals. So there's some strategic moves that are being made, strategic opportunities you're willing to take on, and there's a thoughtful process behind why I'm taking each of these roles versus a job. You may just hop from industry to industry, no kind of, common thread or theme. It's just about, hey, I just need to do what I need to do to pay the bills. And so that's why I talk about career transitions, is because when you think about making that career move, it's important for you to think about, what are my goals now? Where do I see myself? What does success look like to me? And picking the roles that will help you to achieve that versus just saying, I got to get a job, let me just get paid. That helps in the short term. But if you really want to increase your earning potential, if you really want to feel fulfilled, you've got to make strategic career moves and not just hop to jobs.
Absolutely. And we all have our calling in life. There's something that is fit for us. It is right down our alley, and we will have nothing but joy to do as we're doing it. Sometimes that does not come with hopping to one job after another just to pay a financial obligation. Now, as we're trying to navigate what it is that, and earlier you said, find that why, and it leads you to your what, right? And there are certain things that are required if you're trying to go into a particular career field. And those are around like the education requirements and certifications. How would you approach that element of a career move for those that are trying to get into something different?
Yeah, so I'll say this when it comes to education and certifications. I think sometimes companies put wish lists out there, right? They want you to have a laundry list of things. They want you to have 20 years of experience and, 14 different certifications. Like, this is an entry level job. What do I need this? Right? So I think the first thing is to do your due diligence. But also thinking about that research and talking with people in the industry, really understanding that, saying, hey, I see that this is required on the job descriptions that I'm seeing. Do you think that this is essential? Because some places will say, no, honestly, this will set you apart. You should definitely go get it. Other places would say, it's a nice to have. It may set you apart, but it's not a showstopper. The reason why I'm leery about education and certifications is because if you're trying to make a career transition and you don't have a ton of money to pursue all the certifications in the world, then you may not be able to go back and get all those things. And also it can help deter you from making a career move that may be good for you. So it's really important for you to really do that assessment as to, okay, if I want to go do project management, it's likely that I need to go get a PMP certification, right? But if it's more of a project coordinator role where that's something I can work up to, I can maybe get my foot in the door now, gain some experience, and then get the PMP maybe in parallel, for example. So I really advise for folks to do the due diligence on what's required and not just what's on the paper, but talking to real people in the industry and looking at the careers of folks who work at the companies that you work at. Do they have those certifications? Because again, companies post wish lists, and they're expecting people to go and get these 14 certifications that they may not even be able to afford. The other thing I'll also mention is that there are some low-cost platforms that people can use, whether it's Udemy, Coursera, some of these other places that have some low-cost educational options. Many universities, they also have started to make certain courses free or low cost. So there's an opportunity now to get more education than maybe you could maybe about a decade ago. So that's an option as well. If you know that you need those additional things, using some of those low-cost platforms, may be helpful as well.
Absolutely. And you mentioned PMP and due diligence. I wholeheartedly agree with due diligence, folks. If you are not stepping into that arena to try to find out what actually is required and speaking to people, you will spin your wheels because let's just say the PMP, there is a PMP certification, right? But there is coursework that you have to do in order to take that certification. Some companies will say, if you have the coursework done, we can entertain this conversation. And so, not that they're negating, but to your point, you could do it in parallel post hire, right? So you have to do that. You have to have those conversations. You have to dig in to see what truly is required because you are right. There are plenty of wish lists. Now, those wish lists, those conversations, that strategy, all that we've covered so far is ultimately leading us to what we would consider the big payoff, right? Where's the money at, right? Because people are looking for that end goal. So how do I strategize having all those things in place to set me up for that big pay offer?
Yeah, so that's where I will say that sometimes the certifications may help, because if it's something to set you apart, that's something you could probably negotiate for a higher salary, right? So depending if they say that this is preferred, or if it's part of their wish list, you can say, hey, I already have this. I've worked in this field, for a certain amount of time to help set you apart. But when it comes to the pay offer, you want to first also make sure you understand what the industry is paying, right? Because you want to make sure that you're going in with a realistic counter offer. You should never take the first offer. So for those who are listening or watching, do not take the first offer. They're giving you the lowest offer they can, right? Sometimes they may have, budgets, and that may be the best offer, but in most cases, they're giving you what they hope you'll take, right? And so be willing to negotiate. But to set yourself up for that negotiation conversation, you want to make sure that you understand what is the market kind of average, for my level of experience, for my region, and so forth, so that you at least have a baseline. And then the next thing is then thinking about, what do I bring to the table above the average, right? So do you have those special certifications? Have you worked with a different tier of client in that industry that would set you apart from anyone else that got hired, right? So thinking about what sets you apart, because that's how you can then increase the salary offer or a salary counter offer that you want to put forward. And so what I would tell folks is, don't be shy when it comes to salary, right? Because, the companies are willing to give you as low as you will take, but you have to understand, what is it that what is the value that I bring to this organization, and what results have I already delivered? That's the other thing is, so when I think about preparing for that offer, it's like, what do I bring to the table? Where have I already delivered results? What accomplishments have I already had and contributions I've made within this space that I can say, hey, listen, you want somebody with 6 years of experience. I've got 8 years of experience, and I've worked with this, this, and this. I've delivered this and this and this in terms of, savings, revenue generation for my previous company. I'd like to come in somewhere along this range. So being able to articulate why you should get more, not just I want more money, is really key.
And as we're talking of having a conversation, it leads us to this next question that I have around the interview, because you can do all your planning, and hopefully you do. Folks, if you're listening and you're not planning for this thing, you already plan to fail. But if you're doing your due diligence and you're getting the corporate knowledge, the industry knowledge, so that you can have a educated conversation with folks, and you already know around the ballpark where you want to land financially, all of that is good, but you still have to perform, right? You have to be sitting somewhere in front of somebody from that company and having a conversation, whether it's virtually. Some have moved back to in-person interviews, and that is currently happening. But we all want our clients to have a stellar performance when it comes to that interview. So how do I ensure, what can I do to make sure that that piece of this job hunting career transition comes out to be the best that we can do?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things when it comes to interviews. The first thing is to understand the job. What is it that you're going after? What is it required? And knowing the company as well, doing your research, because you want to have that context so you don't feel like I'm going in there winging it. I don't even really know what this is about or how my skills fit. So the first piece is know the job, know the company, and dedicate time. Don't just wait till the night before to try to cram it all in and learn everything you possibly can in a 12 to 24 hour time frame. It's not going to work. So take the time to know the job and the company. I would then also say, take the time to know yourself and know your resume. They're going to ask you questions, and you don't want it to be like, yeah, I did that thing that time, and you're not able to articulate that. So take the time to really understand what's on your resume, and then thinking about the accomplishments that support the bullet points so that you can expand on questions. When they say, tell me about a time when, or can you provide more context on this, you don't want to fumble. So first, know the company and know the job. Next, know yourself and know your resume. And lastly, know the process. So how are they going to, how are they going to deliver the interview? Is it a one-on-one? Is it a panel? Is it technical interview? Is it behavioral? Know the process so that you can get prepared for those different styles, and then proceed to practice. So I tell folks, take the time to, whether it's record yourself, practice with non-biased parties so people can give you realistic feedback, and leverage the process that they say that they're going to use so that you can get comfortable in the setting. The reason why many people fail in interviews is not because they don't know what to say or they don't have the skills. It's a lack of confidence and the lack of ability to convey their value. But when you go through these 3 steps, it allows you to really get prepared, and then build that confidence. And then the last thing I'll say is ask thoughtful questions. If you don't listen to anything else I've said today, please do not go into your next interview without any questions. The reason that is so important is because it not only allows the company to see your thought process, to see your interest in the role, it also allows you to ascertain valuable information about them. Because as you're going through the interview, they're going to sell you we do this and all that kind of stuff. But then when you're able to ask those pointed questions, what's the culture here like? Why is this job open? Tell me a little bit more about the team structure. What are the milestones I'm expected to reach? Where do you see the company going? All of these kinds of pointed questions will help you to understand, hey, is this job a fit for me or no? And then you can make the decision to walk away. But I like to tell people to think about it like dating, right? If you go out on a date and you're asking all the questions and the person on the other end shows no interest, you're like, guess this is not a thing. This isn't going anywhere. And companies will feel the same way, right? If you go into the interview, they ask all the questions and then they ask you if you have any questions. You're like, nope, I'm good. They're going to say, okay, great. We'll let you know, right? So you want to create that rapport with the organization as well.
And that is so key to a true conversation, a converting conversation. When you're talking about interviews, you remind me of a time I was in my last interview that I ever sat in. Their question to me was like, hey, do you have any question? I said, yes, I do. And one of them was, I was very interested in the way they would position their workers, their employees, for future education. And I had done my due diligence. And I said, based on your strategic plan, who would know that if they didn't do their homework, right?
Right, right.
Your company states, yep, this, that, and the other. How are you planning to help me get to my educational goals given this demand on this particular position? And so they had to answer me, right? And so what I loved about that was that I realized that they did not have a plan. It was all set on a paper, and I was actually the first person to call them on it. So you have to be ready for that, and you have to have the knowledge to be able to have that type of conversation, and then realize, like you just said, Julia, is this really for me? Because if they have no real plans, then maybe I need to go to somewhere that they do.
And I think that that's really key, because that also helps to take the nervousness out of the interview. Too often when we go into interviews, we're trying so hard for them to like us, and we're trying to impress them and say all the right things and do all the right things. But when you go in there and you have pointed, thoughtful questions to ask them, that gives you a position of dominance, because you're like, hey, I'm on the same playing field. They're looking at me and I'm looking at them, and we've got to see if we like each other. So it helps to take away that nervousness and gives you that confidence, because like you said, if they don't have the plan that I need, the compensation program that I need, training, whatever it is, if they don't have the things that I need or the culture, then I need to walk away and find another organization.
Folks, this has been such an enlightening conversation with Julia. If you have not gotten anything out of this, I don't know what's going to help you, but I'm sure that somewhere along this conversation, you received something that will help you on your journey. Julia, if they wanted to get a hold of you for specific, now we have sports folks that I'm connected with. There are other people in other executive jobs that are looking for transition and looking for someone to help them. How would they connect with you to get that information?
Absolutely. So they can actually reach out to us via our website. So rockcareer.com is an easy way to get in touch with me. Obviously, LinkedIn is a great place for us to connect as well. But then I'm also on other social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at the Julia Rock. So they can contact me there as well.
Outstanding. And folks, we'll have that information as part of the video and the show notes so you'll be able to contact and connect with Julia. I want to remind everybody that today's episode is sponsored by Triad Leadership Solutions and SupaPass, which are powering our website and app, Southern Sweet and Sassy Coffee, and Hawchester London. And if you've enjoyed this episode and learned something interesting about the topic covered today, make sure to subscribe and let us know by leaving a comment right now. And we're always looking for new ideas and guests that we can add to our show. So if you know someone or have a topic that you would like featured on the podcast or want to sponsor our show, we'd love to hear about it by emailing us at triadleadershipsolutions@gmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode where we dissect leadership from another angle. And as we like to end the show, success to you.